This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
Welcome to a bonus episode of the Life in Film podcast. Join me as I chat to writer-director Craig Tuohy and actress Jaime Winstone.
For me, it was, obviously my dad's in film, and we've always been like fanatics in our household. I remember running home from school to watch the second part of Lawrence of Arabia. It was just like very, very Peter O'Toole obsessed in our house. If it wasn't, Lawrence of Arabia or Giant or I think what we would fight over Once Upon a Time in America or the second Godfather, it would just be like constantly on loop. I was obsessed with Bronx Tale growing up, and studying film, but I never ever wanted to go into acting because and my son mirrors this attitude now, because I just didn't want to be that predictable and be like my dad. And it just so happens after sort of studying film and also becoming very obsessed with horror at a young age, like I think I watched Hellraiser like something like 300 times when I was a kid. And Freddy Krueger, and that was just, I just loved the prosthetics. I loved being scared. It was always something like a real the fear really got me excited. And so then I thought, maybe I should give it a crack, because I don't really have this like embarrassed thing. Like I was quite shy and not the one to stand and read in class, but and then I went on to do sort of a few adverts and was like, I like the money, but I don't really like Lucy Lockett, and I don't really like, maybe this isn't for me, but it's fun. And then I went out and I was a runner for a couple of years. I did my work experience. I actually got kicked out of school because I was a little bit naughty, but so I got shipped over to Bel Air, which was my work experience. And I worked on Indiana Jones and The Departed as a runner when I was like sort of 16, 17. So that was pretty much the best film experience you could possibly get, and so lucky and so privileged, but I was doing everything. I was carrying film, and I was making coffee and trying to get Harrison Ford out of his trailer, and also trying to keep my dad in check, which was hardcore. Dad was not easy on me. He treated me like a full member of the crew. And I think when I came home, I just thought, God, I'm kind of embarrassed to still do this, and people know, I think my head teacher had announced that my dad was this big actor in class. So I just was like, oh, this is just so embarrassing. And then I met Des Hamilton, a casting director, and I hadn't told my mum and dad that I was going to do anything like this. And he sort of basically said, you've got to buck your ideas up, because this is something you are good at. This is something you have a very natural talent for performing, and in a very natural way. And I just was kind of like, oh, okay, fair enough. And then when I sort of walked into my sort of first audition, he said, he called me before the audition, and he said, oh, you've got to, this isn't you coming to meet me and having a coffee and talking about what acting is. I want you to come into there, and I want you to sell me drugs, and I want you to convince me that I need it, and I'm going to try and rob you. And this was very much the early Des Hamilton that we know and love. Like he is very well known for bringing out performances in people. And this was just like one of the finest pieces of information you could get as an actor, as a young sort of knowing, because I didn't do drama school, I didn't do anything like that. I just had set experience, and that was it. The character was there, and I made sure that that deal went down, and I just was like, oh my God, this isn't like some mad Shakespearean thing. This is becoming someone else. Sadly, he took me down the method route, so now I'm like constantly like this traumatized actor.
Oh my God.
But
this film must have been horrendous.
I become it, I live it, I am it. But Des is so great like that. And then he cast me straight away in Bullet Boy, and then I got to work with Ashley Waters straight away, really connected. I then started doing open auditions, and that was it. And then I went on to work in Kidulthood, and you know, things progressed from there. And I sort of worked, and I just remember coming home being like, I've got this film out, and you know, I was really embarrassed to tell my mum and dad. And you know, Dad went to the Hackney Empire to watch it, where he first watched Scum and watched Kidulthood, and called me after and said, you know, it's a great piece of work. And that for me was like, oh my God, he's not only sort of respected that I've done this bit of work, because he knows it's not me. I wasn't like that as a kid at all. You know, I was constantly in a football kit. And it was just like this big pat on the back that we so often don't hear from parents at a young age, you know. And I just was like, that's the go ahead. And that was it. And you know, my love for film and horror and everything came out throughout the sort of next 10 years of going into acting and sort of making a living from it. But yeah, God, you have to be passionate about it. You know, I've got a 9-year-old now, and you know, I've got my family of my own. And if you don't love this game, and if you don't have that strong passion for it, yeah, you're in the wrong game.
Yeah, become an estate agent.
Yeah, you've got to be
right.
relentless,
you know, it's hardcore. It's not for the faint-hearted. And as you know, Elliot, you're an actor, and you know, we have to keep things afloat and keep your creative energies open, because you don't know when your next job's going to come, especially in the condition the industry's in. But yeah, we're very lucky to be able to do what we do and talk about film and, you know, present ourselves in that way. So yeah, grateful always.
No, 100%. And I love that you brought up the fact, because a lot of people will look at things and go, oh, you know, nepotism, if your dad is an actor or whatever. But the fact there's the other side of that there's a shadow that you're in.
Oh, yeah.
People are like expecting something from you. It could be your first day on set, but they're like, but you're Ray Winstone's daughter. You should know. It's like, that must be horrendous when you're starting out. That must be really hard.
Yeah, it's you have this weird, you know, inset imposter syndrome straight away. And because it's like, you know, am I just good at this? But quite quickly, I got a really good bit of advice from my dad, you know, like, you know, if they want you because of me, then like it's a shit job, you know, like, you know, that, you know, you and that will become quite clear. And there's only so long you can run on that nepotism, you know, like before it's like, you know, you're a celebrity. So yeah, there's definitely that shadow and that sort of imposter syndrome. But I mean, the moment you're sort of like doing your own stunts and doing stuff that you love, you know, it slowly fades away. I guess having someone like, all right, yeah, I guess he's quite a national treasure. But
He is.
having you know, and I'm so proud of him as well. And you know, I am a lot like my dad, funny enough. So I guess having that sort of, he doesn't really give a fuck industry. He loves what he does. You know, he was told, you know, he was gay because he didn't want to be a boxer, you know, and he wanted to go into the arts. And in that day, that sort of opinion, that when he started acting, you know, when he did Scum, you know, he quit boxing to do Scum. And, you know, in a weird way, I kind of mirrored that later on, but in completely different circumstances. But, you know, you love what you love, and that's the beauty of it. There was no reason for us to go into film and TV, but, you know, we did. And so happens that we love it. So
that's the main thing. You got to love what you do. And it's so
You've
hard
got
to
to love
find
it.
that job, you know? And like, I think hats off to anyone that's like trying to live their dream, because it, you know, as we all know, it can be very difficult at times. It's funny you mentioned Des Hamilton. We just had him, like our last episode that came out on Tuesday was with Des Hamilton. He's such a unique, funny, like he's one of a kind. But he also didn't he cast you in Donkey Punch as well?
Yeah, Donkey Punch. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was great. He used to do these style auditions, and you know, so great, because not only would you be practiced sort of being on camera, but you know, he'd set up these scenes and scenarios. I had a great audition once with me and Nicola Burley for Donkey Punch, and you know, me and Nicola really hit it off straight away, and she was the kind of same actress as me. We were really kind of exciting to be around each other because we loved improvisation and we loved sort of not giving a fuck on screen, and we were never on book. It was very like, no, let's go this way with the scene, no, let's go this way, and we'd have this sort of tug of war. And that's just, to have that in an audition is just, I mean, you can't even get in the room nowadays, which is just so sad.
That's the tricky thing, isn't it?
It's so sad, and it's just taken away from so much of what we do in the beginning as actors, and the character building, and that also that chemistry you have. It's so to have that in the beginning, he set up this camera and sort of let us go with it. Like, here's a go. And he's so funny, Des. He'll just throw sort of scenarios in there, but just get so much out of us. And people that aren't from an acting background or a theatre background, he would pull something out of you that was so raw and capture it, and that is just monumental now. These were the days of walk-in auditions. I think for Kidulthood there was a walk-in audition. There was 3,000 girls there. And it was an all-day thing, and you're like, what? And Des Hamilton sort of taught me, what am I going to do that these girls aren't going to do? And that was kind of like, you shock them, and you I think my part was, it's just like, God, how can you be more shocking than Becky and Kidulthood? But you definitely can. And I think that Des is a legend. He's a legend. I thank him a lot always. I give him shout outs always.
I love him. He's great. His episode's very funny because he just doesn't give a shit, but in the best sort of way. Like,
he's raw.
He's pretty raw. I think the first thing he said, he was like, how long do you need? And I was like, about 35, 40 minutes. And he was like,
I think you'd be bored out of your mind after 14 minutes.
Just didn't give a shit.
Look, I can't pretend it was anything more than luck, but you can manifest luck. I've got a Quentin Tarantino story. So I started working in a video shop when I was 12, and I dropped out of school and I stopped going to school. I didn't get any qualifications. I just started hanging around in the local video shop. And then by the time I was 22, I was the manager of the video shop. And one of our customers, Daryl Finer, just said to me, you're so passionate about film and you're so knowledgeable about film. Why are you working in a video shop? And I said, well, where else would you be working? Well, I can work at the local Odeon or the local video shop. And he said, no, I'd like to offer you a job. And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, I work for Disney. And he got me a job as a technical assistant, and I was at Disney for 10 years. And I worked on 400 movies in publicity, marketing, and sales. But it is sheer luck. But it's not sheer luck, because if you don't have that passion and you don't have that drive, and that the customer saw, this guy loves film more than anybody I work with, so I was at Disney for 10 years, and then I had all of these contacts and all of this experience, but I'd never been on a film set. So, because I worked in distribution, so I was like, well, I've got to fix that. So I started my own production company, and then short films and music videos and promos, and you learn that craft, and eventually you're ready to make your first feature film, which is pretty much when I met you. I think yours was my second or third when we worked together, Elliot. And just work your way up from that. But to get your start, I would say you need a positive mental attitude. You need a modicum of intelligence. And you need a clean driver's license. You just need to be able to graft, but also stand your ground. You need a clean driver's license, and you need to really, really love it.
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly. If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now. Please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Life in Film Pod. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. This podcast is sponsored by Betterhelp. Do you work in the film industry? Are you freelance? Or perhaps you have a 9-to-5? No matter what you do, mental health affects us all. I struggled early on in my career with the uncertainty of if and when I would ever work again, struggling to pay my bills, or simply with anxiety. Don't know about you, but being an actor, it's very important for me to maintain structure in the downtimes, and I found not only exercise, but talking to someone for me was a game changer. And so Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, Betterhelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. And back to the show.
We've known each other for quite a few years, actually. It's been a while now. We've worked together a few times. So to see you having done this, written, directed, and this is not your debut directorial because you did a documentary before this, but it's your first, I believe it's your first feature film. Is that correct?
It is.
So I mean, mate, you're in the club now, you made it, you got through, everyone else is trying to do it, everyone else is trying to get something made. What was the process? You know, you obviously wrote it, but what was the process to get it made?
It was a long process. Look, me and you worked together on a movie I produced, didn't we, in 2015?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to be a writer, right? I've never necessarily had the goal of directing, and obviously, if you didn't go to film school and all of that sort of stuff, it's not an easy route to take. But I wanted to write this story because of my own personal history and because of things that I want to get off my chest and things that I want to say. And because it's quite a personal story, it just didn't make sense for anybody else to do it. So when I was writing it, I didn't necessarily think I was going to direct it. I thought I was going to, find some. We know a lot of very talented people, but it is a heavy subject and it is quite personal, and it just sort of felt like the right time. So the process was, when I was going to the investors saying, look, I can get you a director that maybe gives you more international clout, but if directing should be truth, really. And it just seems like it seems like the right thing for me to be at the helm, and they backed me. So I was very lucky. I was very, very lucky indeed.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. It's as you've kind of mentioned there, like getting anything made and writing, trying to get your own script off the ground is a nightmare anyway. But then to be able to convince them that you can write and direct it, I don't even know. I want to pick into it later, but first I want to ask as well, like Jaime, obviously you're a huge part of this film, and it's a part that kind of grows as the film goes through. You kind of find out who she is, and I don't want to give anything away for anyone that hasn't seen. But how did you get involved with this project?
Originally, I think it was Craig reaching out, if I remember that correctly. Craig,
you're my first choice.
So well, that's such an honor, because, and also freaked out because the part is, she's, it's wild, and obviously without giving too much away, I think at the time when I read it, it was such a weird time in the industry. I think we had gone into lockdown, and the world had shut down, and we were all, that crazy time, forced to deal with our own problems and very looking inward at it. And I was reading a lot of stuff was being greenlit and then instantly pulled away. The industry was trying to recover from what it just gone through with the pandemic, and it just wasn't there, ready to move forward. And then I was reading about 4 scripts at the time, and this one, The Unloved Ones, Now Everyone Must Die, which I love, by the way, Craig.
I like that. So it was originally called Unloved Ones, which is which we can get into, but
which we will get into. And for me, it jumped out on so many levels. One, because it was honest, it was brutally honest, and personally, I hadn't seen myself play that character. Just fearless and terrifying, and all these emotions in one script in the space of kind of 4 hours. And I just loved the way I picked it up and I read it in about an hour and a half, like really quite quickly. Normally you go through each line and I stop at each scene, and I just read through it because I just wanted to know what the fuck was going on and why and how. And it was different to me because so many levels. There was a personal reason for me, the redemption, the industry that we were in, that I'm in. I think we was in, and it was in a time where we were being told as artists to up skill and retrain. And if you are in the arts, I think Rishi Sunak had come out and said something like, it's not a realistic way to earn a living. Like, we didn't fucking know that already. like it's in our power. And actually, I suddenly want to be a nurse, instead of. And there was a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger in me at this stage, and this script came along and landed on my lap, thankfully, to Craig, and it was like, this is really helping. And it's, you're being told to upskill and retrain and avoid the arts if possible. And this was just like kind of the perfect example to show actually art is really important for so many reasons, to show so many different topics and serious issues. And I was just really naturally drawn to it. It's a redemption film, it's a kick-ass film, it's emotional, and it keeps you on your toes, which is what you want a psychological thriller to do. You don't want to be like led down the garden path and it being the person you suspect it to be, and the reasons behind it. And it had depth. And after meeting Craig and sort of saying, why are we making this film, things came to light, and it just felt like it was coming from a very true and honest place. And as you said, it's the reason to make a film like this. So yeah, that's how it came to be. And we were sort of starved of creativity, and to be able to do something that's personal and also gives you so much range in a character comedy in herself. I just was like, this is awesome. I get to run around covered in blood, on my own personal redemption journey and do something really important and hold a shotgun doing it. It was awesome.
You mentioned that, was it actually shot during the pandemic then?
It was, yeah. So we had this, I don't know if you remember, but there was this little window where we, what was it, Eat Out to Help Out, which was a genius super spreader, Rishi Sunak. So we'd all been locked down. We'd all been very frustrated. And then there was this small window, and I'm always spinning many plates and have several projects, but it was like, what can we actually realistically do with COVID cohorts? Once we were all grouped up, we weren't allowed to split up, etc., etc. And it's like, well, we can do something where it's five people in a house. We can get that done. So I can get that through with my investors. We'll be able to get crew because people are going stir crazy. I'd always planned to make it. I actually wanted to shoot it in the south of France, and Daniel and Imogen have gone away to try and reconnect, and so that was my original plan, but we couldn't do that. But then we found this fabulous location, and we just managed to get a little brief reprieve from the madness. It turned out to be its own special.
I'm just going to move my snoring dog away. I'm so sorry. Come on.
I've got a judging cat.
Come on.
I've got a judging cat next to me. But so we saw an opportunity where we could get a film made in that small window. Kind of felt like we were going to get closed down again. At certain points, we nearly couldn't make it because COVID cohorts got busted up because the DOP had to go to hospital. Okay. It was a pretty mad time. When you look back at it, it's a very surreal time.
Yeah, and it's amazing how long ago it is now as well. It's crazy. Time is, it's like those couple of years are just gone. Like, it's crazy. I mean, as you say, perfect, to be able to shoot in a house with 5 people, that is the perfect situation, when everyone else is not working, and being able to sort of do that and be in a bubble. How long was the shoot?
was like 21 days, I think. So 4 weeks all in, like 5, 5, 5, 3 or something like that. I think it was 21, 22, maybe 22 days.
And you mentioned before that, obviously this script is close to your heart and it's very personal. Is that something you're open to talking about, why it was personal to you?
I think it was personal to both of us. So I'll very quickly hand over and see if Jaime wants to chip in. But for me, there's trauma in my past. There's trauma that is of the rather uncomfortable variety that it's usually women who are a victim of, and I've always I've not really talked about it because men don't talk about it, and it's a strange thing, and it's insensitive, and men are macho, and blah blah blah. But writing it was a kind of catharsis. It was kind of an exorcism to get it. Obviously, what happens in this film isn't what happened to me. It's all metaphorical. But I've experienced what many women have experienced in this world, and I wrote it so that it exists outside of me. Almost as like therapy. So it was like, get it out of me and onto a page, and then that's maybe some sort of exorcism. And then people read it and they said, Craig, this is actually a solid thriller. Not only is it your catharsis, but it actually works as a thriller with stakes and characters and arcs and plot twists, and it's saying something. So that was my process. I wrote it purely as an exercise in therapy, and then it turned out that I actually wrote something that maybe people might get something from watching.
It's like you get it out of you onto the screen, especially being an actor or a writer, and it's kind of like, as you say, a kind of therapy. But sorry, I interrupted you, Jaime. You were going to say something?
No, not at all. I was actually just agreeing exactly what you were saying. Being able to, I guess, like creatively purge something and turn a trauma, for me, it's definitely triggered from a trauma. And at the timing of this film and it being done, there was actually a lot of stuff happening to do with a certain person that I have dealt with with abuse. And for me, like, without having that sort of I actually can't talk about it as of such, because it's all still really going on now, in terms of it's in court and stuff. During the shoot, there were some things that came up that I hadn't personally dealt with in my journey as such. And when I commit to a character like comedy, you're all in that confined space, and we hadn't been working, and it was just great to have this like freelance with this space and this control. But there were certain things that came up with me that really triggered me, and I was able to sort of, thanks to Craig being a great first-time director and sort of knowing how to accept that, and also deal with me, Jaime, as an artist, and also as a character, and be like, well, actually, and relate to me and pull it out of me, and also get some control, because there were so many triggers during the shoot that were obviously really hard to deal with, and because of the subject matter and what actually happens throughout. You get a little piece of information, and it's almost like a trigger therapy. I don't know if anybody ever's done that. You kind of open up a box of worms and then realize at the end, like, oh my God, this box of worms is actually really great. Like, now you know where you're at with yourself. So I found it therapeutic and just so amazing to, it was kind of being like let loose in a padded cell, and being able to go creatively. And it was amazing. It was amazing to be able to deal with some personal demons and let that come out through art. And I really respect Craig for doing this.
I just want to sort of throw back the platitudes and say that it was really incredible to see Jaime sort of come forward as this sort of matriarchal tent of empathy and protection over everybody, not just the females, looking after, or just looking out and looking after everybody, going, this is really sensitive stuff, and this is raw stuff, and it might, you know, the last thing you ever want to do is give anybody any kind of residual trauma. Do you know what I mean? This is about healing. It's not about scarring anyone. And Jaime really stepped up to that role, because I am thinking about the shot, and I'm thinking about the performance, and I'm thinking about making the day, and maybe what I'm not thinking about is what people are being exposed to. You know,
well,
Jaime was brilliant at that.
No, I've got to say this also went on subject matters and certain things like this. It was very prominent at the time in the industry, and actually me and 21 other women went on to campaign for this, and I've actually got, like, you know, I've had so many different conversations after this, because, you know, there is such a grey area in intimacy coaches on set, and what is okay and what is not okay. And actually, you know, sex is a huge part of human life, and abuse is sadly comes with that. And, you know, we actually went on to make a law now that we actually have intimacy coaches on every set, just to protect everyone in the room, the costume and the makeup guys, and everyone who may feel uncomfortable ever from subject matters. It's a huge part of what we do as actors and work on film. And, you know, just because it's not affecting the actors directly, it doesn't mean it's not affecting that poor guy who has a long line of history of trauma holding the boom, you know. So it was just kind of like this conversation opened up for men and women, because it was only when it was like sexual content on scripts, and that's just not how trauma works, you know. So it's been an amazing journey for me as well, like, you know, setting that in motion and having the support of other women and men, and we went and changed the law. So, you know, it just goes to show that stuff like this really does make a difference.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. As I was watching it, I was thinking, God, there's some heavy scenes in there, and there's a lot of stuff in there that I didn't expect to kind of experience as well. And I mean, this must have been not only just shooting it, but the writing process must have been pretty hard. Like, you're extracting things from yourself, and that must be, how long did this take to write, and what was the process there? Because you must have had to have, like, you know, a few days off every now and then.
Right. Writing it actually was relatively straightforward. A friend of mine who I write with, who's also called Craig, but he's not credited on this because you know, he's like, this is your film, but we discussed it, etc., etc. We wanted to make a psychological thriller that we could make at the budget level we were at in our career as first-time writers and directors. But then, as I dove into that, I was like, oh, I have stuff I need to get off my... And I just naturally gravitated towards my own experiences, my own anger at the matriarchy, yada, yada, yada. Harvey Weinstein was my boss. You know, I used to work for Miramax at Disney. So I've got that process. And, you know, and we all knew that he was a scumbag. We didn't know the extent, but we always knew he was a no good person. And so there's all of these things that I'm trying to work through. But the writing process was relatively straightforward, because at its base, it is a psychological thriller with a twist at the end, right? So I know the beats that you have to hit, but I'm hitting raw emotionally. Where I came unstuck was in the edit. So when it came to the edit, I came unstuck. Andy Edwards was a terrific editor, but I just couldn't watch. You'll know the scenes if you've seen the movie. I just couldn't watch those scenes. And writing those scenes is easy because these characters are fictional. You've just made them up and it's just words on a page. But when you're taking someone like Jaime and someone like Chiara, who is a person with emotions and experience and a career and a public persona, and you're making them do the things that you've written, I was like, where does that power come from? I'm like, and I couldn't watch it. I was like, I can't believe, have I just taken advantage of my position as a writer and director? Do you know what I mean? And I had this whole, those scenes I didn't see until Andy was happy with the edit, because I couldn't watch them. I was like, I trust you, cut them and show them. And he'll tell you, I disappeared for a month I was like, I'll watch all of the rest, but when we get to these key scenes, I can't watch them. I'll watch them cut and I'll give you my notes. Because I was like, people have trusted you, and if you've got it wrong, it turns out that many people get the film, but if people come out and go, this is misogynistic, the last thing I wanted it to be was exploitation. But you just don't know because you're one voice. You know what you think it means, but other people might go, well, I was disgusted. So that was the bit where I came unstuck.
When you're actually filming those scenes as well, that must have been a strain.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't fun, was it, Jamie?
No, it was hardcore, and without obviously giving too much away, just space and time, which is what we had. I think we remember we blocked out a whole day for those particular scenes, and I think it was over 2 days, and it was such an array of cast as well. Like, we were also comfortable because we were in that space together, and I think we shot it towards the end, right? We did shoot it. Yeah, we saved it, and we had time and space, and I think sometimes when you're working under pressure, you can just get on that thing, but you always know throughout a shoot, especially during the pandemic, and the pressure's on and everything seems to be tunnel focused, and we know as actors where it's going and what we're here to do. That doesn't stop your human anxiety and emotions going from 0 to 10, because it's precious stuff. It's important stuff, and I think we just took time on it, and working with Chiara, I think, was just such a highlight for me because she's so giving and she's so amazing with her body language. So I really fed off her for a lot of it, and then I took my raw emotion and put it in this kind of base of comedy, and it kind of all purged out through that. I mean, I keep using the word purge because I'm quite fascinated with, like, when I look back and sort of thought about the process, it was just these waves of emotions and wave of anger, and then wave of like, right, I want to get this done now. And it's just your natural instinct to kind of go, right, I'm done with this now. It's like with therapy or anything, right? Okay, great. Thanks for fixing that. Let's move on. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. We did have to. I do remember one that we did have an intimacy coordinator for those scenes, thankfully. But I do remember we did have to stop in halfway through the first day of the 2 days we were shooting those scenes, and me and you, Chiara, just took ourselves away for a little cry, like just a little 5-minute breather away from everyone else. Let's have a big hug and then let's carry on, because it's just those scenes. Nobody's enjoying those scenes, but they're essential for the
film. I mean, it's so intense. It's so intense, and I think it'll be one of those films that a lot of people will relate to, and it will touch them, and it will be one of those things where you've obviously got to put a warning on this film, because anyone that's been through any sort of trauma like this, it's going to be very, very triggering. But I remember you writing it quite a few years ago, and you kind of prepped me for what it was about, so I knew before I watched it anyway. But I was still like kind of blown away by where you went with it, because not many films can go there, and hats off for that, and hats off for the fact that you've managed to write this and then get it, actually made, and you've directed it, you've put all this effort in, man. It's impressive to see.
It is impressive.
Thank you. It's a shame that it's not easy right now, because if anything, the arts are more important than they've ever been, and marginalized voices are more important than they've ever been. I always said that. I said to Saban, who've released this film in America, and they've done an amazing job, and they've been fantastic and supportive. I said, look, if ever it gets remade as an American movie, because that happens, it should be a female director, because I'd love to see their take on it. I wouldn't want to do it again. I'd like to see a different voice, and it's more important than ever, but it's harder than ever, as you know, Elliot, because I know that you write, and I know that you're a brilliant talent, but it's just, I don't know. I was very lucky that my investors and my producers and my wonderful cast gave me that shot, really, to be honest. It still took
It's
years,
bold. It's bold, yeah. It took you a long time, you know, and it's bold and it's brave, and that filmmaking is, and like you said, more than ever, art should be shining, because it's crazy to think that we would have got through these last 5 years without music, poetry, art, film. You know, like it's and it's still now, since we lost the British Film Council. You know, like I used to do a couple of indie films a year, just because that's what keeps me going. And however much I love playing Peggy Mitchell and doing all these commercial things, like it's my passion is film and writing and directors, and you kind of go, God, that pulling that budget is just been so monumental for all of us, because that's how it inspires people to get into film, and that's how also these taboo subjects and voices, that's the majority of where they get heard, through film and through art and through, you know, poetry. And yeah, it's a shame we are in that state right now, but keep getting told it's changing, you know.
Next year.
They keep saying. You smashed it as Peggy, though, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Get out of my pub.
I just want to wrap up and say congratulations to you both. Like, Craig, I'm proud of you, man. Like, I've seen your career, like, since we've worked together, and it's like, it's just great to see that you're doing this now. So thank you both for coming on. It's lovely to meet you, Jaime, and great to see you. Craig. And all the best with it. Keep me updated. Let me know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you both. Love you both dearly.
Yeah, thank you, Craig. So good to see you, babes. I'll see you soon.
Speak soon.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now. Thank you to our guests Craig and Jaime, and as always, thank you to our sponsor, Betterhelp.